The following is a presentation of NBC Sports, network of the games of the 25th Olympiad.
Round 2 of the playoffs, and the red-hot Celtics, who swept Indiana, move on to Cleveland. The Cavs are in the second round for the first time in 16 years.
Then later on, we'll relive some truly magical moments with the rebroadcast of the 1992 All-Star Game.
And why are these people lining up for tickets at the Thomas and Mack Center? Because the NBA playoffs are coming to Las Vegas. But first, it's showtime. Richfield Coliseum, just outside Cleveland, site of today's Eastern Conference semifinal Game 1 between the Celtics and the Cavs. Boston comes in riding a wave of recent success. They've won 11 straight, all without Larry Bird, and 18 of their last 19, for that matter. Hi, everybody. I'm Bob Costas. I'll be joined a bit later by Quinn Buckner and the Insiders, Peter Vesey and Bob Ferry. The schedule today on NBC calls for Game 1 of the Boston-Cleveland series, and it was going to be followed by Game 4 of the first-round series between the Jazz and the Clippers. However, due to events in Los Angeles the last couple of days, that game, originally scheduled for Thursday, won't be played until tomorrow. Instead, we'll bring you today a second look at this year's NBA All-Star Game featuring that memorable performance by Magic Johnson, and we'll talk live with Magic throughout the rebroadcast of the All-Star Game. Right now, let's take a live look at the South Central Los Angeles area. You can see the LA Sports Arena where the Clippers play, and out beyond that, the LA Coliseum where the Raiders play and other sports events take place. That immediate area there appears to be, for the moment, calm. Standing by live near the Los Angeles Sports Arena is Jennifer Volpe of NBC News. Let's go to her for the latest on the situation in LA. Jennifer?
Good morning, Bob. You're absolutely right. It is relatively calm and relatively peaceful out here in South Central Los Angeles. We're right across from the LA Sports Arena, where we had wanted to come to you from the steps of the sports arena. I don't know if you can see behind me or not, or perhaps you saw in your aerial footage, but there are thousands of federal troops and also of National Guard troops that are using the entire sports complex right now as their staging area, or as their home base, if you will. What a stark contrast this is, basically, from what we thought would be happening out here today as Clippers fans prepared for their team's first playoff appearances in 16 years. It is an area more known for the screams of fans than for the screams of unrest that have plagued this city since late Wednesday. To one corner of the Los Angeles Sports Complex is the Sports Arena, home of the Clippers. Next door is the LA Memorial Coliseum, home to the Raiders. Today, both are home to over 6,000 now federalized National Guard troops. The complex is intact. The surrounding streets, however, have not fared so well. Troops patrol the area like a war zone, but not in time to prevent the looting of this gas station right across the street from the arena, or the burning of this strip mall. A smoldering reminder of the worst urban rioting to hit this country since the 1960s. And so, Bob, basically, let's hope that Sunday's game provides a pleasant, if only temporary, diversion from the long road to rebuilding that this city's going to have to face.
That game, of course, to take place in Anaheim. As we could see, the area immediately behind you, Jennifer, calm and obviously being used as a staging area for the troops. But what about the larger general vicinity? Are there more eruptions of violence and unrest in Los Angeles today, or are things in general calming down?
Well, from what we hear, things are getting considerably better. There has been a marked decrease in the number of fires and lootings overnight, but it's still a little too early to call it definite calm or peace.
Jennifer Volpe in Los Angeles, thanks very much. This is the NBA's Vice President of Operations, Rod Thorne, who's heavily involved in the scheduling of the games for the league. What was the thinking behind the switching of the Clipper game to Anaheim and the Laker game to Las Vegas?
Well, Bob, we had several factors to consider, principally of which were the safety factor for both participants and patrons, and secondly, the competitive aspect. We have other teams in the playoffs other than these. We have to adhere to some sort of schedule, and we have to be as fair as we can to both the Clippers and the Lakers, Portland and Utah. So in considering all the factors and in being in constant contact with the mayor's office in Los Angeles, there was a curfew involved yesterday, and we had to make the decision to move out of Los Angeles.
Now, the Clippers go to Anaheim, but the Lakers go to Las Vegas. Is there some feeling on their part that they have truly relinquished a home court advantage here?
Well, Bob, I think both of them have relinquished the home court advantage because they're not playing on their floor. They looked around for an alternative site. We looked around for an alternative site. We looked from San Diego to Sacramento to Phoenix, Las Vegas, wherever we could come up with an acceptable arena. And it turned out that they ended up in Anaheim and in Las Vegas.
I would guess that the management of both clubs, while not being delighted from a selfish standpoint, sees the larger picture and sees that this was the only alternative.
Well, they were most cooperative, Bob, both the Clippers and the Lakers, understanding that an act of God can happen at any time, and we do have to get the games played, and I cannot say enough for the cooperation that both of them gave us.
Rod, thanks very much. As Rod Thorne just explained, the situation in Los Angeles forced the NBA to reschedule Game 4 of the Jazz-Clippers series and move it to the Anaheim Convention Center. For both teams, the events of the last 4 days have had a profound effect on both a professional and a personal level.
I was in a fairly safe neighborhood, and then all of a sudden it started escalating, and pretty soon it was like 4 blocks from my house, and they were burning and looting and doing things like that, and then I was starting to get a little worried.
I think what's going on here is far more important than playing a basketball game. Certainly, you know, we were excited about getting into the playoffs. You know, the first time we have been in the playoffs since we've been the Clippers. And but I think everyone has put that on the back burner.
I think the sad thing of this whole situation is the truly innocent people that woke up, went to work, and was on the way home, and their life changed forever. You know, you cannot. I do not feel sympathy for people that go out to hurt other people and to harm other people when these people have nothing, have never did anything, and then you look and it's because of the color, the skin color, when they get right down to it. And I have no kind of respect for that.
You're still a human being, and sometimes I think people think you're an athlete and you're something else, but we're just like everyone else, and we have those same feelings. And some people can't work in this circumstance. We're probably going to have to. I just hope we can work to the best of our ability.
So the 4th game of the Jazz-Clippers series is now set for tomorrow afternoon. The game was originally scheduled for the LA Sports Arena, which is in downtown Los Angeles. It's been moved south about 40 miles to the Anaheim Convention Center. But the teams won't check out Anaheim until game day tomorrow. Instead, both teams are practicing in the Marina del Rey area at Loyola Marymount University. And that's where Tom Hammond joins us from now. Tom?
Bob, both teams will be practicing here later today, and one is struck by the difference a few miles makes. We're less than 5 miles from the center of the worst rioting in Los Angeles, yet here at Loyola Marymount, everything is very tranquil. It was here yesterday that Clippers officials were frantically on the phone trying to decide when and where to play Game 4. The NBA preferred that they play today, but the Clippers were adamant that the game be postponed till Sunday. As far as an alternate site, Pauley Pavilion at UCLA was their first choice. But Los Angeles Mayor Tom Bradley has been adamant that no public demonstrations, no public gatherings take place this weekend, and police would have to be taken off the streets for traffic and crowd control, so Pauley Pavilion was rejected. Long Beach was considered, but there's been some rioting there as well. The arena at the University of California, Irvine was a choice for a while, but the arena was just too small. So finally, the Anaheim Convention Center was settled upon, the former home of the ABA Anaheim Amigos. It holds only about 7,400, but they figure that the 11,000 Clipper ticket holders will be reduced by half or so, so there should be enough room for everyone, and no tickets will be sold at the site. There is some debate about whether these games should take place in the context of what has gone on the last few days in Los Angeles. Opinions range from the fact that they shouldn't be played at all to perhaps that they will have a unifying force on the city. Meanwhile, for the teams, preparations continue. In fact, the Clippers are arriving now to start their practice in just a few minutes. Bob?
Tom, thank you. When the violence first erupted in Los Angeles on Wednesday, the Lakers and Trailblazers were playing Game 3 of their series at the Forum in Inglewood. Game 4 was scheduled for last night, but yesterday, the NBA, as we said, decided to move the game to Las Vegas.
Well, I think we had to move it out of here. I don't see how we could play a game here with the situation the way it is. It's just too dangerous for people. You know, I thought it'd be an NBA city, but, you know, we're just anxious to get on with this and start playing. We've been sitting around quite a while now.
We have no control over this situation right now. We have to try and stay focused, as hard as that may be. I mean, you know, there's a lot more pressing things going on besides basketball.
Well, it was really important that we have a site. Like I said before, we've been in Limbo for a while now, and most of the players are kind of anxious to get out there and get going again and really not to lose in the game the other night. You know, these days get longer and longer, so we want to get back out on the court as soon as possible.
Well, both the Trailblazers and the Lakers are traveling to Las Vegas this morning. The Lakers, I think, have arrived within the last few. The Blazers should be getting there within the hour. Here's a look at the scene yesterday at the Thomas and Mack Center in Las Vegas. People lining up to get tickets for the game. Unlike the Clippers contest, which moved a comparatively small distance, the Lakers and Blazers have relocated 282 miles away. And joining us live now at McCarran Airport in Las Vegas is Joel Myers. Joel?
Well, Bobby, you were just mentioning that the Clippers got to go down to the Anaheim Convention Center. Unfortunately for the Lakers and the Portland Trailblazers, it is a 5-hour ride from Los Angeles. So these two teams relocating all the way to the Thomas and Mack Center. And as I speak to you, Mike Dunleavy has just arrived, the Los Angeles Lakers team plane, and also Byron Scott. Coach, watching all the human suffering over the last few days in Southern California, how did you keep your team focused?
Well, it's been, you know, a tough situation because the media coverage and all, it's all around you, and you know, a lot of our players know a lot of people who are going through some problems. But you know, we have to go on. We have to play our game. We have to you know, do what we're paid to do. And even though it's difficult for some people, you know, we are going to make the best out of it.
Let's try to get Byron in here as well if we can, because this is a young man, obviously, that has strong emotional ties. He grew up in the area right around the Forum. Thank you, Byron, for taking the time. How can you get back to basketball after you saw your old neighborhood go up in flames over the last few days?
Well, it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be tough for everybody that's involved. But you know, we have a job at hand, and we know what we you know, came out here to do. So you know, for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, or whatever it takes for us to win this basketball game, we have to, you know, kind of put that situation in Los Angeles aside and concentrate at the job at hand.
And for both of you gentlemen, I was there Wednesday night. The emotional outpouring of your home crowd was incredible. Now you give up that home court advantage. Mike, first of all, what does it mean, and does it make any difference because of what has gone on over the last 3-4 days?
Well, from our standpoint, obviously we lose a big advantage. You know, we came home, we played our hearts out. I think our fans gave us a big boost. They gave us the energy that we needed to play a very emotional game. I don't know that we can get that in Las Vegas. Particularly, you know, the fans here. I mean, hopefully there'll be Laker fans. I don't know, but and in light of what's going on, it still is important to us, you know, to do. I think it's good for our city, good for, you know, the pride of that city. It's usually that time of year for them, and it's something that I think that they're proud of, and I think they're proud of the way that we've handled our adversity, and I hope that translates into somehow to give them some help in handling theirs.
All right, Coach, thank you. Byron, thank you for taking the time to come over. It's been a tough week for everybody, to say the least, in Los Angeles. Now, hopefully, all of us that live there can regain that sense of community over the next few days once again. Bob?
Okay, Joel, thanks. One person, obviously, who lives there is Magic Johnson. He'll be joining us later today to comment on the rebroadcast of the All-Star game from this past February, and he'll also be involved with Dick Enberg in the call of the game tomorrow between the Lakers and the Trailblazers here on NBC. Magic, do you have a personal perspective on what's transpired during the past week in L.A.?
Well, you know, people are upset, of course, about the verdict and everything, but I think what we have to do now is just stop the violence and move on. I think what people have to do and remember is the fact that it's happened in their community. They destroy, in terms of blacks destroyed some of their own property. Now they must build up our own community with our own hands and not really worry about anything else besides just cleaning up the mess and also taking advantage of the situation in terms of just building our community back up.
Magic, how do you react to the Jim Brown comment that superstar athletes, not just Magic Johnson, but other great black athletes, are so far removed by the circumstances of their lives from people who live on the streets, that they may have credibility with 95% of the American public, but with those kids in the inner cities, they do not have the credibility they wish they had and can't have an effect on halting violence or changing the circumstances of their lives?
Well, the whole thing is that nobody could halt the violence, whether it be athlete, politician, Jim Brown himself. So Jim has made some good points out of this whole situation. You know, what we have to do is not fight one another. We have to come together. And I want to come together with Jim and everybody else. You know, I have a business right in the community. I go out there a lot. The people there see me all the time, whether I'm shaking hands, signing autographs, what have you. Yes, a lot of times I can't identify because, yes, I'm making a living. I have a job, and a lot of people don't have jobs. But at the same token, I've been there, I'm black, they're black, and I understand their problems. You're not so far removed from the situation that you don't understand it, because I went through it most of my life. Just because I've been able to make a good living now doesn't really remove me from that situation. So what we have to do is not fight among each other. I can't argue with Jim Brown, I can't argue with whoever else. What we have to do is come together and come up with a solution. And that solution is for me and whoever else, whether it's other athletes, whether it's entertainers, is to go back in there and rebuild and provide jobs for the young people and also talk to them. And we can do that. We have the power and the money to do that. So right now, instead of, you know, trying to go against Jim, I'm gonna come together with Jim, and no matter what, Jim is black, I'm black, and we all got to come together and make sure this situation does not happen again.
Magic, thanks very much, and we'll talk with you again later in the day. Coming up now, we'll turn our attention to matters on the court. The Pistons forced a decisive fifth game with the Knicks last night, and we'll be joined by Quinn Buckner and the Insiders, Peter Bessie and Bob Ferry, as this expanded edition of NBA Showtime continues.
I drive a race car for a living. I depend on the parts and pieces in my car. And I feel so confident knowing that Pennzoil is protecting the moving parts inside of my engine. Pennzoil's quality and protection give me the confidence I need to do my job without second thought. I've never had a problem with using Pennzoil. Their motor oil is the best against viscosity breakdown. That's why I have the confidence to use it on the street and in my race car. Pennzoil, performance, protection, quality.
If you're a small business that calls one area code more than others, you can choose a calling plan designed just for you. Introducing the AT&T Partners in Business Plan. You can get a 20% discount on the area code you call most, automatically, even if your calling patterns change each month. AT&T Partners in Business. Choices, because one size does not fit all. Call us.
Anything you can handle, we can handle. Yokohama high-performance tires.
A car with a worn suspension is more than uncomfortable. It's unsafe. But Midas puts you back in control. For a limited time, buy one Shocker strut and get the second for 50% off. For a safer suspension, nobody beats Midas.
Rose fights for life on the Golden Girls.
Dorothy is here. Blanche is here. She wants you to get out of the bed so she can use it.
It's the episode you'll never forget. NBC tonight.
NBA Showtime is brought to you by Yokohama Tires, advanced technology on wheels.
With the Bulls and Suns having swept their first-round series, and with the Lakers series having been postponed, there was only one game on the playoff docket last night. It was at the Palace in Auburn Hills, Game 4 between the Knicks and the Pistons. Another physical contest featuring lots of defense and very little scoring. Here's a look. Chuck Daly knew that with a loss, it could have been his final game in Detroit. Knicks rookie guard Greg Anthony got more minutes last night than both Mark Jackson and Gerald Wilkins. Tough shot with the right hand by the southpaw Anthony, an early 11-point Knick lead. Jackson and Wilkins combined for only 4 points. Later in the second quarter, the Pistons go on a 28-4 run. Isaiah down the lane. Detroit coming back to take a 10-point lead at halftime. Now, check out this pass by Joe Dumars through his legs, snapping it to Thomas, who will bury the jumper. The Pistons were up by as many as 16 in the third. Then the Knicks had an impressive run in the fourth quarter. John Starks to Charles Oakley with 48 seconds left. It cuts Detroit's lead to 82-81. But the Pistons remained composed at the foul line, and they held on to take Game 4. Both teams are talking confidently about their chances tomorrow in Game 5.
We're going back home. We wanted to get this win going on to Chicago. That's not going to happen, so what we got to do is come look forward to Sunday's game, then look forward to going to Chicago.
Now we're going in with some momentum. You know, we're going in feeling confident, and we know we can win in that building. We've won 2 out of the last 3 times we've been there, so you know we're going to go in there with a lot of confidence and just play hard. Hopefully, it'll be a fair game. The word is in the dictionary. Hopefully means maybe. I hope so. Why did you say that? Because we're in New York.
All right. Hello, Quinn. Hello, Bob. Hello, Pete. Any reason for John Sally's misgivings?
Well, I think, John, like most players in that situation, are looking for a little bit of an edge. But the officiating isn't going to be a big factor in this game. It's going to be who can put the ball in the basket enough times, because both teams are having trouble doing that.
All right. Now, here are the Pistons having forced a Game 5 with their win last night. How do you assess the state of the team?
Well, the state of the team going into Game 4 was total disruption. But this team always plays well when they're pointing fingers at each other and squabbling among each other. The players were pointing fingers at the coaching staff. The coaching staff was pointing fingers at the players.
For what?
Well, the players think that the coaching staff has put too much emphasis on defense. Coaching staff is saying that, hey, if we had offensive players, we'd pay more attention to offense. But the Pistons have always won because of their defense and rebounding, and not because of their offense. But Chuck Daly in Game 4 did go to his offense a lot more. At the end of the game, he had Aguirre on the court instead of John Sally. In Game 3, when Isaiah was going one-on-one with Mark Jackson, Rodman and Sally were in that game underneath, and a lot of people felt there should have been more offensive players in that game.
Well, you know, with Isaiah, he has won more games for him than he's lost. And I don't know if these guys complaining. The guys won them 2 championships. I mean, I think the rest of them have contributed. So there's something to be said for that. In terms of the game in the second half, Mark Aguirre's got to play. And the reason he was in and Sally wasn't in is Pat Ewing just wasn't getting it done. But in terms of guys complaining, yeah, I think it's initially disruptive. But when you get into a circumstance like this, everybody knows that for Detroit, they're at home. They did not want to get beat at home going out in the first round.
Well, let's talk about a story coming out of your place of residence, Milwaukee. Do I hear Hubie Brown's name circulating?
Well, his name has been in the Milwaukee papers, but the Milwaukee journalists seem to attach anybody who's had any affiliation to the Bucks as candidate for that job. I mean, here's a prime example.
You think that's the only reason they thought about me?
So low, they put his name in the paper. But
Thank you very much.
I mean, Hubie would love to be the coach. He'd love to get back into coaching. He started his career in the pros as a Milwaukee Buck assistant. You know, not many people realize that Larry Costello was one of the first coaches in this league that had an assistant.
You know, another name is being thrown out there now that wants to come back and coach is Doug Moe. I guess he's got a clean bill of health now, so you're going to see his name pop up here.
Doug Collins is the guy that would love to get the GM job there. A lot of people have had him as a coaching candidate, but I think he'd like to stay out of coaching this year, or actually for the next few years, so he can watch his son play at Duke. And he feels that this is a real tough time for coaches. You've got to be in the right spot to be a coach nowadays and have all the power, or you're in job jeopardy.
Is that possible? Collins to Milwaukee as the GM?
I don't think it will happen, no. I think they're going to go to somebody that does have an affiliation with that team.
Well, Hubie Brown, he wants control, right? So if he's going to be the coach, he'd like to be the coach, the GM, and maybe the mayor and chief of police, right?
Not Hubie. Power right, Hubie? Yeah, I think that he would like to have both, but John Steinmiller, who is interviewing the people out there, he's a vice president, he said that he's going to try and break up the 2 jobs, although he feels that the people with 2 jobs league are the most successful ones.
Don Nelson has 2 jobs, but wasn't successful getting past the first round of the playoffs with Golden State.
That's right. This might be the last time that we'll ever see Don Nelson get into the start a season without a legitimate center. He's got to do something during the offseason to get his team past the first or second round.
But I don't think there's ever been any question about that. This year was a fluke, in my opinion. You bring a kid like Billy Owens in out of the draft, first time the kid's played as a rookie, and they get a better record than they got last year. I think he's got to make changes, but I don't think this is anything new in terms of Don Nelson. They just have always needed a center, but not able to get somebody that can pass the ball and keep them in their spread offense.
Well, that's what happens when you draft where they draft. You know, the only way he's going to get a center is move up in the draft or trade for one.
Except this year, they moved up with the Mitch Richmond trade. They moved up to get Owens, and in hindsight, as terrific a player as Owens is, they could have moved up and gotten Mutombo.
Hey, listen, where they drafted last year, they could have had Stanley Roberts.
Yeah, that's right, you know.
And passed up 3 times.
Chances are, for them to get a center, they're going to have to take a shot on somebody that's not playing like Stacey King in Chicago and just go with them. And I think a player like that, Don Nelson, could get through to, but they can't go into another season with a 6'7" center, 6'8" center, whatever.
You know, it's such a shame because he's obviously a tremendous coach, and his teams are so much fun to watch. You'd like to see them get that additional element.
You wish you could watch them longer, though. I mean,
Well, speaking of centers, where's Hakeem Olajuwon going to wind up next year?
Oh, it looks like every team in this league is going to end up making a bid for him, except the Knicks because they have Ewing, and the Spurs because they have David Robinson. But then again, I was talking to Jerry Tarkanian the other day, and he was asking me what it would take to get Hakeem. But I'll tell you, the Lakers are another team that have made an offer or are about to make an offer of Divac and Perkins. I think you might look for that to happen after the year. But, again, it's just one of many teams that are going to be making an offer.
Now, how about that as a former GM? Divac and Perkins, if I'm the Lakers, I do that. And if I'm the Rockets, that might be better than any offer I can get. And you know this guy wants out, and it's an unlivable situation. That seems like a natural.
Well, it's a natural in a lot of ways. You know, the Lakers aren't really happy with Divac's, you know, his effort all the time. And I think, you know, it's a trade that would fit. You know, a Barkley just doesn't fit because Philadelphia doesn't have a center to get him. So anything that Houston does has to get a center in return.
Okay, moving on. If this is going to be a satisfying last hurrah for Cotton Fitzsimmons, he needs big production from Dan Marley, and Marley's hobbling.
Right, a lot more serious than people have been led to believe. He hurt his left knee in the second game of the Spurs series, took himself out of the game after missing a dunk. Since then, he's gone through every conceivable test, and they haven't come up with anything, and that's the good news. The bad news is they haven't found anything, and he's still hurting.
Well, what makes that so important now is Dan Marley is the guy off the bench that really gives them the pop. But the other person that's been questionable in terms of injuries is Tom Chambers. So now you're looking at not getting any points in the front court with Chambers, and then the one guy who can play 2 or 3 positions, and Marley is hurting. I mean, that puts Phoenix in a tough spot because they've had injuries, and the other guy that is susceptible to injuries that hadn't happened, and I'm not wishing on it, is Kevin Johnson. So they're really struggling and, you know, and trying to get themselves healthy, and at this time in the playoffs, you know, you just can't afford not to be.
See, in the playoffs, you know, you could get a rotation of 7 or 8 people, and the big thing about Dan Marley that Tom Chambers can't do is he can play 2 and 3 positions, and that's how you get your minutes. That's how you keep your starters happy. So that's a devastating blow to them. Tom Chambers is going to come in and score, but he's going to demand more minutes at one position than the other, which is going to take a key player out of the game more.
That's why a guy like Nate McMillan's been so important for George Karl in Seattle. Stays in the rotation because you can move them all around. Mm-hmm. What about the Olympic team? Anything new on that with the last few spots?
Well, we hear that they're going to meet May 11th for that last couple spots. They're going to make a decision on that. I was with Rod Thorne the other day on the plane out to San Antonio, and he's on that committee. And I was trying to get his pick out of him, and he said, well, what they'll do is they'll whittle it down to 20 or 30 guys, and I asked him to whittle it down to 1 or 2 as he's talking to me, but he wouldn't do it. But I got to say, Clyde Drexler is on that team. If they don't put this guy on the team, there should be an investigation.
I'm not hard-pressed to disagree with that. I mean, I think Clyde this year has shown that he's deserved to play. I know all of us have said pretty prominently that we thought Isaiah Thomas should play. I think Isaiah Thomas has just struggled so much through the season. Part of the reason that the selection wasn't made in total was to give some guys an opportunity to make it based upon their play this year, and I just think Clyde has had a better year.
Well, now remember this. Larry Bird still hasn't played. Yeah, you can say day to day. Day to day can become week to week, month to month. There might be another spot, right?
Well, you got another situation. You got Magic Johnson, who, you know, is questionable, just, you know, if he's going to be healthy enough or whatever by then. Or
I think he'll go.
I'm sure he'll go. But you got Magic Johnson who hasn't played all year. You got Larry Bird. You know, you need another athlete on that team, somebody that can get up and down the court, play defense, and just an athlete. And that Drexler fits that bill better than anybody.
All right, what fits our bill here is to pay some bills. Coming up next, we'll zero in on the game at the Richfield Coliseum between Boston and Cleveland, including Quinn's visit with the Celtics' quiet star, Reggie Lewis. That's after this commercial break.
It's so big, it happens only once a year. America's largest yard sale at Sears. And every Craftsman mower and tractor is on sale. All tractors save $100 to $300. All mowers save from $10 to $100. Like this Craftsman 3.5 horsepower mower, only $169.99. The savings are spectacular. This week only during America's largest yard sale at Sears.
You can count on me, Sears, Roebuck and Company.
You get a hold of him? Yeah, he said he was going to spend the afternoon with his wife.
His wife? What could he possibly be doing with his wife on a Saturday afternoon?
He's going to clean out the garage or scrub the toilet. Or
Yeah, take out the garbage. She's like a slave driver, that woman, you know? I feel sorry for the guy, you know? It hurts me.
Well, he doesn't know what he's missing.
You know, I never let a woman treat me that way.
I hear you, man. So, what should we do tonight?
We could talk about cars.
Yeah.
If your face were square, shaving would be simple, but your face has curves. You need the Schick Tracer, with a blade that flexes to put more of the blade edge against your skin. Tracer from Schick traces every curve on your face.
Anything you can handle, we can handle. Yokohama High Performance Tires.
He was nipped for the gold in '84. 4 years later, he didn't even make the Olympic team and retired. But after his mother's death last summer, Pablo Morales returned to the pool and made the '92 team at age 27. Now, can he finally realize his Olympic dream? Pablo Morales, one to watch this summer on NBC.
Okay, we're back on NBA Showtime, and due to the extended pregame show, the tip-off of the game between the Cavaliers and the Celtics is scheduled for about 15-16 minutes from now at about 1:18 Eastern Time. This could be one of the best matchups of this year's playoffs. The Cavs have played at a very high level all year, but they've done so, obviously, in the shadow of the Bulls in the NBA's Central Division. Here's a recent history. 3 years ago, the Cavs were seconds away from making it to the second round of the playoffs, but then Michael Jordan connected, and whether coincidence or not, the Cavs started going backwards from the second-best record in the East in '89 to 2 above 500 the next season, and then all the way down to draft lottery status last May. A major factor in last year's drop-off was injuries, the most devastating being the severe knee injury, which ended point guard Mark Price's season.
When you don't have a quarterback, if the football team lost its quarterback, they'd struggle, and that's what happened to us last year. We really didn't have anybody to back me up.
With Price back running the offense this season, the Cavs had the most improved record in the league, upping their win total by 24. On the defensive end, Cleveland led the league in blocked shots and forced teams to think twice before they brought the ball inside against Larry Nance, Hot Rod Williams, and Brad Daugherty.
A lot of people early on said we were a soft front line and we didn't play hard, and it was just the opposite. You know, we've got two of the better shot blockers in the league, and Hot Rod and Larry, and you just don't want to take the ball to hole in those guys, and you got a big ugly guy like myself standing back there.
With their win over the Nets on Thursday, the Cavs finally made it to the second round of the playoffs, where they thought they were headed 3 years ago.
As far as I'm concerned, we have nothing to lose, because at the beginning of the season, we were picked anywhere from 6th to last, right? No one felt that we'd even be in the running. So here we are, and we got past the first round.
Not only did they get past the first round, but the Cavs own home court advantage in this series, and they're a slight favorite to beat the Celtics. Injuries are a key question in the series, as they are in many playoff matchups, and more than ever, to take a look at that, we'll bring in the gentlemen who call the game, Marv Albert and Mike Fratello. Marv?
All right, Bob, and it was about an hour and a half ago that the Cavaliers all-star center Brad Daugherty made his way to the Coliseum here in Richfield. You can see the limp. He's still bothered by that sprained ankle, and it is still considerably swollen, but he will be in the starting lineup. It's an ankle sprain that has been with him on and off for most of the season. From the Boston point of view, the injury rundown, Larry Bird, as you know, still out, and he's still being called day to day. Dee Brown, though, making his return after missing 8 games with that acute sinus condition and vertigo. It's expected to play in the area of 15 to 20 minutes today. And the Celtics are a well-rested ball club after ending their series with Indiana last Monday. And we discussed that factor with Boston coach Chris Ford.
Sometimes you get too much rest. Sometimes you don't get enough. I think we are rested mentally and physically. I think we're ready to start anew and fresh. And I think it's important for guys like Robert and Kevin who need that extra time. And we went through some good hard practices where I think the guys have stayed sharp. And what I like is how they've come together mentally, and they've really focused in on what they have to go out there and accomplish.
After finishing off the Pacers Monday night, this veteran Celtic team probably could use the rest. I spoke to a couple of the players earlier, and Joe Klein said, hey, we haven't had a lot of scrimmages. We got a chance to do that. Ed Pinckney said some bodies have healed. Rick Fox said, we got D. Brown back. And then when I asked Kevin McHale, 4.5 days, good or bad, he looked at me and said, it's not like we forgot how to play basketball in just 4.5 days.
And Mike, the Celtics are the hottest club in the NBA. They come in with 11 straight wins, 18 of their last 19. We'll be back with Game 1 of the best of 7 in just a couple of minutes. Bob?
Okay, Mark, for the last 12 years, the Celtics have come to be identified, of course, by the Hall of Fame front line of Bird, McHale, and Parrish. All have contributed this year, but sporadically because of both age and injuries. But the Celtics still managed to finish the season on a very high note, overtaking the Knicks to win the Atlantic. The baton was passed, and the Celtic carrying it now is the quiet man, Reggie Lewis.
They are symbols of the Celtics' past, a winning tradition unrivaled in the game. The numbers bring back memories of names that read like basketball royalty. Now, as another Celtic era approaches an end, the torch must be passed. The tradition must be continued. That's the way it's always been in Boston. The next Celtic generation is represented by Reggie Lewis, stepping up after an apprenticeship well served.
When you're playing behind Robert and Kevin, there isn't no expectation. You know, the fans here don't expect much of you, nor the coaches or management. So I had a chance to just learn from them and just develop slowly.
Playing in the shadow is nothing new to Reggie Lewis. At Baltimore's Dunbar High School, he took a backseat to teammates and current NBA players Muggsy Bogues, David Wingate, and Reggie Williams. And after starring at Northeastern, 21 NBA teams overlooked him in the 1987 draft.
One thing that I've learned by playing in the shadow of Reggie Williams and David Wingate and Muggs is just gave me determination to work that much harder at my game. I knew that I had a long way to go if I wanted to reach the NBA.
He's the guy who's really stepped up and now is hitting the big baskets in the clutch. The guy that, you know, even the older players think, you know, Kevin, Larry, and Robert, they feel that they can go to him, that they can give him the ball, and he'll create something that may result in even them getting an easy basket.
To see them guys give me the ball when the game is on the line, especially when you see Larry pass up a jumper to give it to you and say, here, it's your turn now, do your thing. I mean, that's a great feeling.
You're the quiet leader on the team. Are you comfortable with that?
I am. I think by me sitting back and learning from Robert, Larry, and Kevin, I know what it takes to be a leader when the game is on the line, winning the ball in clutch situations, knowing how to get the job done. And, you know, that's something that I've observed, saw Larry do it many a times, Kevin and Chief, and, you know, I can't learn from better players.
Making his All-Star Game debut, Reggie.
Reggie was the Celtics' sole representative in this year's All-Star Game and was the team leader in scoring, block shots, and steals. Again, the Celtics' torch has been passed.
He's playing well and doing everything that he can do to fill, you know, Larry's absence. And he's really stepping up big. And I think, I don't know if it's so much as passing it over, or I think Reggie's stepping up to take it, you know, because I think Reggie wants it.
He's emerging as the new leader of the Boston Celtics.
Quite a statement. True?
It is absolutely the case. I think Reggie said it best. When Larry passes you the ball down the stretch so you can make the shot, that means Larry has confidence that Reggie can make the things happen the way that he can. What I like about him that really makes him the superstar that he is, this guy defends. There are a lot of great offensive players that don't. And when I asked Reggie about where he got this from. He said, I watched Michael Jordan, and he's a great offensive player, but he's a very, very good defensive player as well.
Now, Craig Elo is back for the Cavs, but really they don't have anybody who can truly cover this guy at 6'7" in the backcourt.
I think that's going to be Cleveland's biggest problem. First of all, covering Reggie Lewis is going to be their problem. Second of all, Cleveland has not beaten Boston at home this year, so they've got a psychological hurdle they need to get over in this game as well.
Celtics took 3 out of 4 against them. They split in Boston, and as you say, the Celts won both at Richfield Coliseum, which is where we're heading for Game 1 of the Celtics and Cavaliers. Marv Albert and Mike Fratello will have the call, and then later on, we'll bring you a replay of the 1992 All-Star Game because there is no second playoff game today. Magic Johnson will join us for his thoughts as we bring you the rebroadcast of the All-Star Game. The NBA playoffs on NBC continue right after these messages from your local station, and we'll see you at halftime.
Monday, we've saved the best for last. You're 17. You need some green. What do? The Fresh Prince and Carlton Flash for cash. Don't miss it. Then
you're grounded until further notice.
I love him.
Come with me.
Right now?
Right now.
Every kid thinks about it. Monday, Blossom does it. 2 cool shows, all new NBC Monday.
Today's healthcare costs are enough to make you sick.
There's very little incentive to control costs.
Most people can't afford medical insurance, and they're fed up.
And angry, furious.
Can new political proposals cure our ailing system, or are they just Band-Aid solutions? Watch Healthcare, Remedy Required, beginning Monday on News 8 at 5. Get the complete diagnosis before it's too late.
For over 10 years, he has answered the call. When people are in trouble, when everything is going wrong, when time is running out. But there's one call he answers every Saturday morning in an old station wagon that may be his most important rescue of all. He's a big brother, and he's making a big difference in the life of a boy who doesn't have a father to look to. But the alarming fact is, we don't have nearly enough men like him to help with the long list of children who have asked for a big brother. Right now, there are hundreds of boys who've been waiting literally years for a man they can look to for guidance and friendship. Time is running out for these kids, but if you can make a commitment of 4 hours a week, you can make all the difference in the world.
Can I turn on the siren?
Okay, just once.
You can mean the difference between a boy feeling lost and found.
Cosby's back tomorrow at 6:30.